Good morning, everyone. We have several folks that are joining us, so we're going to give about 30 seconds here to let everyone get on. So appreciate your patience. An empty piece anyway. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us here at the XBE Thrive webinar series. We're going to be doing this series of content topic overviews on a monthly basis. So we appreciate you being here. We would appreciate your comments and feedback. If you can let us know if there are better ways for us to present this data in the future, we would certainly appreciate it. We have about 100 folks on the line with us. So for the large crowd, everyone is muted, but we do have question and answer, an open forum as a part of this session. So we ask you to go to the top ribbon of your computer, and there is a chat window. Anything that you ask, you can chat or put that question there. It'll get reviewed. It'll get put out here on the in the forum for us to be able to talk about. We'll answer every question that we can. Questions that we don't get to, if you ask it, we will send you back your question following this session. And if you're interested as a participant in all of the questions that got handled here in this session and or that got handled individually, you can go to our website and we'll send a follow-up link so that you can get a list of all the questions and answers after this session. So again, I appreciate everybody for joining us. Today, what we're going to talk a little bit about is the world of supplier diversity. Going to spend some time generally about what we're seeing as the trends from a corporate perspective and what organizations are trying to do to grow their supplier diversity programs, and what we're seeing from the diverse business enterprises, that of minorities, women, veterans, all categories, and we refer to that as XBEs. So you're going to hear that a fair amount over this session. So the definition for it is just an all-inclusive term for disadvantaged businesses is XBEs. So we're going to spend a bit of time there. We're going to talk a little bit about some market research that we found. From that point, we're going to move into an open forum that will allow us to kind of deal with some of these questions and answers that are out there. And we're going to close out with a little bit about the Diversity Consortium, why we're here, what we're trying to accomplish, get you guys some contact information, and a little bit more about this kind of programming series that we're going to see happen in this webinar series called XBE Thrive. So just on a national level, what we've seen is there is, of course, certifying bodies that deal with these XBE organizations in different classes, women and minorities and so on. An interesting statistic here is that a large number of those disadvantaged businesses, those XBEs, are not certified. So what we're trying to do is help those people become more visible. And maybe that includes certification. Maybe that includes some organized way to see what opportunities are in the marketplace and being able to communicate with corporations that they fit this category of XBE so that they can be considered for jobs that might be targeted for minority businesses. Certainly trying to help people connect with the resources that are available. And that seems to be a big issue. There is an enormous amount of support for XBE organizations. And I think from a corporate perspective and even a government perspective, there's a huge desire to see those businesses flourish, particularly with what we've seen in the socioeconomic activity of COVID, the social unrest that's gone on with all of the protesting. There are new commitments from corporate which are significant. Many of the large businesses have been working on diversity programs for decades. The challenge in that program is that the XBE world, the growth inside those supplier diversity programs has been a bit stagnant, at least for the last decade and maybe the last two. So now there is resurging efforts to how do we change what we've been doing and see those programs start to grow. So what we've seen as we are dealing with the Fortune 1000 companies, we've engaged about 120 of those organizations over the last 6 months or so, trying to get an understanding of where they're at in their programs, what are their objectives, what are their strategies, and how are they trying to communicate and actualize or operationalize those changes. So as we are dealing with the likes of Coca-Cola and DuPont, organizations like American Red Cross and Bond Secure Mercy Health Systems across all sectors, is they are trying to reinvigorate a department of diversity supply chain, and probably with a limited addition of resource. Certainly the expectations and commitments of those organizations are responding to the market's need, more equity, more opportunity, more development of challenged neighborhoods and communities. And now it's about trying to calibrate their strategies, their investments, and their activity. So as many of you are on the phone here represent that XBE fulfillment group, you're probably getting a ton of requests, a ton of activity that's coming your way. And what we got to do is be able to monetize that. We've got to see those new opportunities and that motivation for organizations to spend more time, effort, and money in these communities and with these companies. We got to make that come to reality, not find ourselves in the same spot where we see lagging or diminishing opportunity for smaller businesses. So as we kind of look at what the small business or the XBE, which is representative typically in this environment, in just the state of South Carolina, there's a fairly significant, we're knocking on the door of 1 million people that are employed or are owned in that arena, both from a independent contractor, sole proprietor, and organizations that have employees, but are represented a large number of these disadvantaged business enterprises or XBEs are represented here. There's pretty good data as we start to see this. The next layer down, there are some national programs and certifying bodies that we saw in the first slide. It becomes very murky at that point. So we are working with the state organizations and the non-government organizations, nonprofits, to put some real clarity around what's the dynamics and demographics of this group. What are the needs of those organizations? How do we get them new opportunity, and how do we make sure that they're prepared for an incremental growth? We had an interesting conversation with a rather significant $20 million a year XBE, 50,000 square foot manufacturing facility with probably 30 or 40 employees. And the challenge for that organization was a couple of things. One was competitive healthcare. One was access to capital to be able to support the growth that they were seeing in the marketplace as a response to some of these changes that we're seeing from the COVID impact to the supply chain, where we saw about 57% of the small business XBE registered cease to do business. So there was a significant effect on the supply chain from that event. And then of course all the social unrest that went along with that is driving an enormous focus to that. And that growth is starting to come, but not always is there the foundation and infrastructure to be able to support that growth. So in a survey that was done, and what we tried to do is figure out what's the biggest problems for XBEs. And this is a list. You know, obviously you can kind of get a flair for certainly healthcare and business development, sales, and getting new customers was high on that list. So I think as we start to get into that world and understanding how do we as a collection of organizations band together to be able to answer some of these, to reduce the cost of customer acquisition, and how do we drive up our volume and not negatively impact our profitability. So that's where we're going to spend an awful lot of our time. What we are are coming to find as a result of all of the press and all of the market intel following COVID is that there's some really significant things that are going up. You know, XBEs make up a large portion of our economy, but what we're seeing is an enormous challenge set, and we got to figure out how to do that. And then we look at the success rates of these organizations and compared to their peer group, and they're not seeing the success or the growth or the profitability that come. And then when you couple that with a much higher failure rate in times of crisis. So these are all challenges that we want to try to address, and we want to try to improve the situation that's out there. So we're starting to see ourselves band together, both as a commercial corporate entity, and that's done through many of the supplier development councils. How can we bring resources to the XBEs so that they're more capable and ready to respond, secure, and deliver new services profitably, because that's what has to happen. And then how do we try to organize our XBE organizations, the network of suppliers out there, so that we can push across investments of technology, of healthcare programs and negotiating strength, and some sort of group purchasing organization that allows us to be able to get the scale that large organizations get. There are many businesses, many organizations, and many entities within the state that are on this journey, and they all kind of come at this at a little bit different perspective, why they're doing it, who they're actually doing it for, what they're trying to accomplish. But they are certainly all in unison about trying to help the disadvantaged businesses in the state of South Carolina grow. There's some wonderful services and resources available. So what we're going to try to do in these forums is communicate what those are. I sat with the South Carolina Small Business Development Council yesterday, and they've got a wonderful suite of services that are free of charge with excellent capabilities to provide organizations with what they need to know to be able to respond and grow. And we certainly want to communicate that with all of these other organizations that are out there. So you're going to see over the next 6 months as we kind of band these people together and try to provide some consistency about how they reach out to you folks as XBEs. You're going to see a lot of things that come your way in terms of services and support and funding and opportunities and events that can help you go build your business. So at this point in time, what I want to do is stop. I want to open it up to questions. I know that there are several people that have logged some questions already. So what I want to do is kind of stop. We're going to spend a little time in this question and answer phase. We're going to deal with this for about 15, 20 minutes or so. And then the last few minutes of this call, what I want to do is spend some time and introduce you to who the Diversity Consortium is, why we formed, what we're trying to accomplish in that mission, and how we plan to reach out and support you folks as we run forward. So Christopher, I know that you're tabulating and kind of organizing questions. Can you kick us off with the first set of questions we want to deal with?
Yeah, first question is, how can I accelerate the profile of my business for corporate opportunities?
I'm sorry, I only got the first part of your question.
How can I accelerate the profile of my business for corporate opportunities?
Got it. So I'm sure everybody heard that. So basically, how do I position my organization to see more and get more new opportunities out there? So there are some wonderful tools, one of which we're trying to assemble all of the data sources to create an opportunity clearinghouse. So this is every opportunity that corporate's putting on the street that they're trying to attract diverse businesses to respond to. So that listing will be available, organized and available, but there's other sources to find that as well. There is a database called Supplier.io, and Supplier.io is a database which corporates tend to subscribe that gives them about 1.6 million organizations and their diversity classification. And they tend to list opportunities in there. So anybody that has that desire from this point, I think you can send an email, and we're glad to help you at least connect, be able to find access to that list, and see if we can help you get visibility to it. The second half of that question is having corporations know that you're there. And the challenge, I think, in that right now is organizations primarily go to the certifying bodies, WeBank, NMSDC, the veterans and service disabled veterans or Ability One or disabled list to be able to find those folks. And it's important that if you want organizations to know you're there, to reach out to you to opportunities, certification unfortunately is one of the things that you're going to have to do to get noticed, unless you have another strategy to independently reach out to the supply chain organizations of these corporations and let them know that you are a bona fide disabled or a disability or disadvantaged business class. So I hope that's a fair answer to the question. If it's not, we can respond a little more. If you'll just let us know in your chat that that was satisfactory. Christopher, let's go on to the next one.
Yeah, question 2. We have struggles with managing our sales outreach. What is a good platform to help with the process?
So I think every organization has challenges with the quality of lists and how do you get to those folks and how do you get a response, particularly in this flurry of emails and HTML messaging and the wave that came as a result of us all being virtual. We use a database that gives us access to 20 million corporate companies around with contact names. So there are a variety of those kind of data sources, Harris Industrial and Dun & Bradstreet. We'd be glad to help you identify what all of those lists are. But I would tell you from our perspective, and Ray Tate, who is our VP of Business Development, is on this call. And I think where we have probably found the most success is using LinkedIn. LinkedIn gives you the ability to be able to reach out to specific folks in specific function and be able to do a very intimate level of one-on-one type of communication outreach. It's slow, right? So that's one of the challenges with that, but we found it to be pretty effective. So hopefully that was a decent response. Again, if we didn't cover your answer or your question as well as you'd like, just add to it and we'll provide some more detail. But I would offer that there is a list of these type of databases and sources, and we'd be glad to provide that to you. So Christopher, let's go on to the next one.
Question 3. Can you talk about the selection process for choosing the right XBE from a corporate perspective?
Yeah, I think this was one of the challenges that the Diversity Consortium started out with, is that we knew the suppliers and we knew the market perspective and kind of how people were looking at it, but we really didn't know the corporate buyer. We were blessed, fortunate to get a corporate buyer from the aeronautics defense industry that was billions of dollars of indirect spend. And they gave us the perspective of what that buyer is. And unfortunately, many organizations will say that it's important to them, that it's a high priority, that it is a first priority. But when it really comes down, they're looking for the cheapest, fastest quality schedule delivery. And it generally doesn't matter if you're diverse or not when they're actually making those buying decisions. So I think what we have to do in that scenario is we have to be competitive. We have to be a sophisticated delivery model, and we got to be able to communicate that so that we can buy whether they can buy our value proposition, whether we're diverse or we are not. So there's a challenge there, right? So it does require to be as sophisticated as anybody. In that scenario, being diverse is not an advantage. in the advantage that they're going to give us opportunity, now we got to be able to stand out. And I think that is the group inside the state and certainly the Diversity Consortium. That's what our primary focus is how do we leverage our position as a diverse organization to be more attractive, to be more efficient, to be more competitive, and be able to win these projects. So go on to the next one.
Question 4. What is the criteria for securing funding for the growth of my business?
So there is a variety of programs. There is grant programs. There are foundation, private and family money foundations. There is city and community foundations. We represent about $1 billion of private equity and VC lenders to provide working capital needs for the folks that we engage. So there are a lot of opportunities out there. Understanding the requirements, understanding the use, and being able to effectively apply for those funds is a bit strategic. So we've got some resources that we can direct you to, and even sources of funding if that's your issue. And I would just ask that you put that in a chat if you're interested in funding. I will. We had a recent example, 2 situations. A company in the food packaging business that was trying to replace mezzanine financing and a couple of $1 million worth, found that sourcing at less than a 3% interest rate, and another organization that wanted to do a line of credit financing in the $7 million range, and again under 3% terms. So there is some money and some people interested in supporting this. So funding is available. Now it's about putting the right package together, application to be able to qualify and be able to articulate your need.
Question 5. Do you provide lists of your corporate relationships for XBEs to work with within your program?
Absolutely. So we have the Fortune 1000. That's primarily our engagement set. I will tell you, in the last 45 days, we've talked to 150 of those people independently and intimately. So we have a pretty good handle of what's going on there. We will onboard their procurement opportunities or tender opportunities. I suspect that we'll have 100,000 of those in our system that are current by the end of the year. So we're regularly out there looking at those folks, but we'll provide profile information on those corporates. So that's a part of our function. In terms of trying to get to those opportunities in the channel, I think we need to bind together as a group, as we're all looking, and we need to understand what our specialties are, the NIST codes that we support, and being able to drive opportunities that come out of that corporate mass down to the right people. So that's what we're advocating, is trying to build a opportunity clearinghouse that drives opportunities to the individuals that have the capability. Then they need to look at it and see if they have the capability, the capacity, and the desire to do that. So that's one of the things that we're working really hard with all of these other organizations to refine and make it a little easier. It's important for us, and I'm sure it's important for all of you on the phone, if you're going to take your time and resource and respond to an RFP or a proposal in general, is you want your fair share, right? So we need to make sure that those proposals and offerings are successful at a rate that supports our activity.
Question 6, in line with RFPs to corporate customers, is where can we find RFPs or opportunities to get involved in the bidding process with corporate companies?
So I think this is similar to the last question. I think you'll find that we're going to try to assemble this clearinghouse, but there are other opportunities. There are other databases, and certainly from a government perspective, SAMS will provide that. There is no private sector corporate business opportunity bulletin board that we're aware of. So we're working through the NMSDC and WeBank and the other certifying bodies, to reach out to their corporates to provide a centralized opportunity listing that can be administrated. And that's why we're trying to use our partnership with those organizations to see if we can't clean up those lines of opportunity and response. So we've got our heads down on it, trying to figure that one out.
Last question here. This is really good information. What are the next steps for getting moving?
So a couple of things there. And if I may, well, let me directly answer it. So we're going to continue this type of topic sharing in what we're calling the XBE Thrive webinar series. We're going to do these monthly. Right now, they're being done across the country. After the first round of these, we're going to consolidate our learnings, and we'll do them in a consolidated. So all 50 states will do it on one panel. And those are being scheduled today. We're going to go through what that series topic syllabus is through the end of the year. And then the second piece to that is a bunch of micro discussions. For instance, this financing or this opportunity clearinghouse. We'll have other sessions that people who are interested in can go to and just talk about that. They can understand what the market is. They can understand what the resources are. They can have some open dialogue in a facilitated environment. Typically, we'll see 100 in each one of these individuals. So I can imagine that we might have 1,000 people on this call in 3 months in the Thrive, XBE Thrive webinar series. But each one of these micros is probably 10 to 100. So now it becomes a little more manageable to have these discussions and have these issues and responses out there. So we're going to continue this. I would ask that that you put in your chat interested in being invited. I think anybody that signed up for this will get made aware of the next one that comes. And if you know of someone that's not attending that you think had some interest, if you could forward them on either to our website or to this series acknowledgement. So I think that's probably the best. I'm going to spend a little time after question and answer, and I'm going to explain who the Diversity Consortium is and what we're trying to do. So hopefully that will provide some insight as well. So Christopher, are there any more questions that we want to deal with here?
The last question from the crowd was understanding contact information, which probably segues you into your next piece.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the presentation that I'm sharing with you folks today, there is our Director of Business Development and the Chairman of our board. Their phone numbers and emails are going to be included here, so I'll have them on the screen for you. You can also, I believe that we're going to be distributing this post-meeting recording for all of your folks' reference. And of course, any of that information would be on the website for the Diversity Consortium. So we'll answer that question as we go on here. Any other questions or comments, Christopher, we want to deal with before we kind of go into the closeout, quick introduction of who we are and what the agendas look like as we go forward?
No more questions.
Great, thanks. So folks, I'm going to just take a couple of minutes and we're going to talk about who the Diversity Consortium is and how we came about. The Diversity Consortium is made up of 25 service providers, primarily disadvantaged business certified organizations that provide an end-to-end consultative and program management resource for corporations to be able to build and calibrate their strategies and deploy their supplier diversity programs. In that same effort, we're going to provide support, growth, development, capacity, funding, and issue handling for the XBE population that are in our world. So the organization, as you look at these 25 companies, are well-tenured, experienced organizations. I would like to say that we have vetted who we believe are the best in the market for the things that they do: certification support, analytics, funding options, training, a variety of those kind of categories, which we're going to get into. But what I want you to know is that it's a primarily diverse group of providers that all have boutique kind of specialty offerings, and we've butted them together in a systematic and programmatic way that allows corporations to buy all of those services under the same experience. The same thing true as we're talking to you folks in the XBE world. So as we're looking down market to the service provision, we want you to be able to buy the things that you need or get the support that you need and not have to go 25 or 50 or 100 places to get it. So what you see on this is really just the attributes. So this is a relatively large organization. The Diversity Consortium has got 22 people that are full-time there, and there are hundreds of folks that are in the 25 companies that make up the service provision of the Diversity Consortium. The service lines as it applies to down market or to the XBEs themselves is we're providing certification support. So this is all of the certifying bodies that make sense, the strategy, the application, and the administration of those certifications. We're providing that service set, and I believe that we are unquestionably the best in the business at that, with a 99% success rate. If we fill out an application and we submit it, almost always it gets accepted. So that is done through our partner, and that's Certify My Company and 8A Authority, as we're dealing with the 8A certifications. Organizational development, this is coaching, training, mentor development. So we've got a variety of courses, topics, and providers in this, up to and including 5 of the top 10 supply chain diversity program universities in the state, or in the nation. So we have coursework that is professional certification, that is typically a course of study is about 30 hours of content made up of 5 to 6 modules with capability demonstration and really trying to improve the knowledge and the capability to deliver. We've got technology platforms that help bind some of these systems and request and proposal and document management, financial systems and schedules together so that we can start to share information. And we will have this inventory or library of opportunities that are out there, so people can query them or have access to them or be paged when something fits their categories. That's the intent, so that we're quickly and efficiently able to see and respond to opportunities. We've got a vetted bench program that allows folks to kind of elevate from bronze, silver, gold, platinum at different levels that will be communicated with opportunities to corporates. So as a corporation would provide us their tender or RFP opportunities, we would supply them everybody in our database that's capable of providing it. But on top of that, we would provide, here's the people that we see vetted that are the best for that provision. And here's all of the different risk assessments and operational assessments and certifications this group has that makes them stand out from the rest of the crowd. We will provide business development support. So this is marketing support, this is public relations support, this is on the ground sales support, being able to aggregate multiple XBEs together so that they can qualify to bid something that would be larger or outside their sole capability. So we're going to try to make sure that we get more bites at the apple, if you will. We do have a variety of funding programs with private equity money and state and national programs that are out there. There is a $4 million grant program currently that's about development programs. So trying to make sure that we find the people that qualify for that and get that money is right in our wheelhouse. And then, of course, all that from cut sheets and websites and collateral material, trying to make sure that that's developed and produced and managed over time. We've got a substantial research capability. So as we're going out and looking at company profiles, our market trends, our service provision, the ability and access to the data and databases to be able to answer some of these questions. This is typically a capability and an expense that no one organization can handle on their own. So that's what we're trying to do, is kind of central service this, leverage that cost amongst a variety. We anticipate providing service to about 4,000 XBEs this year. So really it's about trying to take some of these large investments and spread it across a larger organization set. We launched last month a health plan designed exclusively for XBEs. So this is the business owners and their employees that will be able to reduce the cost and improve the impacts of health coverage significantly. We recently rolled this out in the state of South Carolina to all of the state organizations that many of which we saw on that last page. I believe that this organization is planning to start seeing patients sometime September, October timeframe. We have the capabilities of providing program and project management support. So as people get opportunities and they don't have the bandwidth to handle it today, we can loan those capabilities in. And that kind of bleeds into this capacity line. So if you have staff that are stranded, don't have work to do, you don't want to lose them, and another organization has got need for some of those, we can borrow them at rate, right? So it allows you to dispatch one of your people that are not being utilized well into an organization that helps that business and offsets your overhead loss. So those kind of programs are a bit of a resource clearinghouse to make sure that we can up our utilization, which ups our profitability. And then the final thing, the 12 services that we offer to the XBE community is performance management, benchmarking services, the databases and the analytics to be able to look, how am I doing myself against my past performance and my desire? How am I looking against my peer set? How am I looking against the industry as a whole? So we have a lot of this information and the ability to manage that data that we're going to bring on to our XBE clients. What we're going to do in the state of South Carolina is we're going to kind of roll this out city by city in a variety of service sets. But what we hope to do is glean about 200 XBE firms here in the state, 5 specific corporate clients in the state, and that will match up to the other states. So you can multiply this, essentially by about 50. And then it is our intention to generate $20 million of incremental business opportunity in the state by the end of the year. So you can kind of get a grasp of what the Diversity Consortium is trying to do. Through our Thrive, XBE Thrive webinar series, you can see what the topics we're trying to deal with. So of course, today we kind of talked about the state. The next issue is, what is certification? Why do I need it? How do I leverage it? What are the complexities? Where should I certify? And all of those kind of issues. The next one is the power. How do we actually use that investment and designation to get more business? We'll talk about the challenges that are being stated. How do I find and execute on opportunities? We'll talk about how does binding together in an alliance or a venture increase our odds of winning and increase our profitability. And then the last December topic is this healthcare issue. How do I attract and keep the talent that I have, because I don't have the resources to provide competitive benefits to my employees that other market sectors might have. So that's kind of what we're going to do in these monthly invites. For every one of these will go out well in advance. Sorry for those of you that got short notice on this one, but they are now scheduled to the end of the year, and you should be seeing something on that relatively soon. And these micro topics that we talked about earlier, there'll be every month there'll be follow-ons about technology and marketing and sales. about finding these opportunities and responding successfully. We'll talk about health plan and this vetted bench and shared services. How do I do the back of house, the finance, the HR, the IT, the marketing services that based on my limited capability, right? I don't have the departments to do that. How can I leverage those service requirements into the capacity of this group? Certainly certification is a dynamic and expensive and effortful activity. So we want to spend some time on that, along with financial support, training, and development. So those 10 topics will be dealt with on a monthly basis. And if Michelle Abrams is on this call, sorry for putting your name on a topic that I haven't talked to you about. I'll get with you soon. So I kind of want to wrap up, and Christopher, I'd like to open it up to some questions if there are any. You know, are there real needs out there, and you know, who are the stakeholders that can help? Whether we talk about that in this session or we begin to uncover those and distribute those. If you're on this call, I commit to you that we're going to share with you the avenues of resource. So if there are people that can help you, if the Diversity Consortium can provide you resource or any of these other organizations, we're going to put them on our website and we're going to communicate with you directly about the programs that they have because you're attending this. I am interested from anybody in this call is what we're trying to do a viable approach. Is there a better way to do what we're trying to accomplish here? Ultimately, we want to drive nearly $500 million of corporate money into this group of suppliers across the country. So if there's a better way to do it, I think we're all on board. As we learn the people that are in this space and they're trying to support this space, I think we're seeing some synergies and some conflicts. And what we're trying to do is work those out so that we can best collectively benefit the constituents of XBEs across the country. Then how do we let people know about it, right? What's the best way to educate this market and to communicate with this market? I would love to get your thoughts on that. And what kind of hurdles do you anticipate? Finally, the resources that you think we should leverage to get to this crowd. If we can unite and we can improve, we can grow and we can grow profitably. And I think that's the mission of the Diversity Consortium and the other people in that list of resources that are out there. So know that we're here to help and that our missions are aligned, I hope, with your desires to grow and become more profitable. So Christopher, I want to open it up as we have just a couple of minutes to see if there are any other questions that rise. And if not, I've provided you with contact information for our board chair and for our director of business development that will be thrilled to death to provide you any information that you'd require here as we go forward. So Christopher, are there any other questions that we want to deal with here?
I do not see any closing questions.
Got it. So I want to thank everybody for their time. I want to be respectful of our 45-minute scheduled time here, and I think we're right on schedule. Please go to our website, thediversityconsortium.com. You'll find us on LinkedIn as the same. Any information that the organization can provide or myself, Jim Bell, and I sit on the board of directors of the Diversity Consortium. I promise you as a board member that we are committed to helping our constituents. You will find the service that will do its very best to improve your situation. So thank you for your time and look forward to talking with you again.